Welcome to System Reboot Zone, the podcast for the cracked, the creative, and the relentless. I'm your host, Adam, and this is where low-end legends rise and broken systems get rebuilt. We talk tech, tactics, and triumphs. If you've ever made magic with broken gear, this podcast is for you. Let's get into it.
AMD versus NVIDIA in 2025. Which graphics card should you actually buy? Look, I get it. You're trying to build or upgrade your PC, and suddenly you're drowning in numbers, tech specs, and people arguing online about which graphics card is better. It's exhausting. So let's cut through all that noise and have a real conversation about AMD versus NVIDIA in 2025. No jargon overload, no gatekeeping. Just honest talk about what actually matters when you're spending your hard-earned money. What's the big deal anyway? Think of your graphics card as the part of your computer that makes games look good and run smoothly. AMD and NVIDIA are the two big players, and they've both released their newest, most powerful cards this year. AMD has their Radeon RX 9000 series. NVIDIA has their RTX 5000 lineup. Both are impressive, but they're impressive in different ways. And that's where things get interesting. The performance question. Who's faster? Here's the thing about performance. It's complicated, but it doesn't have to be confusing. NVIDIA's RTX 5090 is basically the Ferrari of graphics cards. It's the fastest thing you can buy right now. If you want the absolute best performance, especially in 4K gaming with all the fancy lighting effects turned on, NVIDIA wins. No contest. But here's what nobody tells you. For most people, that extra performance doesn't actually matter that much. AMD's RX 970 XT and RX 990 are more like really nice sports cars. They're fast, super fast actually. In regular games, without all the fancy ray tracing stuff, they often match or even beat NVIDIA's cards, and they cost way less. Think of it this way. If you're playing at 1440p, that's the sweet spot for most gamers. AMD cards perform incredibly well. The RX 970 XT can even beat the RTX 5080 in many games. That's a $599 card beating an $899 card. Let's talk about money because it matters. This is where things get real interesting and honestly where AMD really shines. Here's a question. Would you rather get 120 frames per second for $599 or 130 frames per second for $899? That's basically the choice you're making. The AMD RX 970 XT costs $599 and gives you around 120 FPS in Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p. The NVIDIA RTX 5080 costs $899 and gives you about 130 FPS. Is 10 extra frames worth $300 to you? For most people, probably not. When you look at frames per dollar, yeah, that's actually a metric people use. AMD gives you way more bang for your buck across the board. We're talking 15 to 30% more performance for your money. And here's the kicker. Most people don't even play on ultra settings. If you dial things down to high or medium, which still looks great by the way, that performance gap gets even smaller. The ray tracing thing everyone talks about. Okay, so what is ray tracing? In simple terms, it's a technology that makes light, shadows, and reflections look super realistic in games. It's gorgeous when it works well. NVIDIA is definitely better at this. Their cards have special hardware just for ray tracing, and it shows. If you turn on ray tracing in a game, NVIDIA cards will run it smoother and look better. But here's the reality check. Not every game uses ray tracing. Actually, most don't. And even in games that do have it, a lot of people turn it off because it tanks your frame rate. AMD has improved their ray tracing with the new cards, but they're still behind NVIDIA. If ray tracing is super important to you, go NVIDIA. If it's not a deal breaker, AMD will save you a lot of money. There's also this upscaling tech that both companies have. NVIDIA calls theirs DLSS, AMD calls theirs FSR. They basically make games run faster without looking worse. NVIDIA's is a bit better, but AMD's works on any graphics card, not just their own. That's pretty cool. The smart tech features. NVIDIA is really pushing AI features. They have frame generation, which makes games smoother, and all sorts of clever tech that uses artificial intelligence to improve your gaming. It's impressive stuff, and it's getting better all the time. AMD takes a different approach. Their tech is open source, which means it works on everyone's graphics cards, not just theirs. It's less fancy, but it's more flexible. If you're a tech enthusiast who wants the cutting-edge stuff, NVIDIA has more toys to play with. If you just want something that works well without locking you into one brand, AMD's the friendlier option. Heat and power, the stuff nobody talks about until it's a problem. AMD's cards run cooler and use less electricity. This matters more than you'd think. NVIDIA's top cards, especially the RTX 5090, are absolute space heaters. They need massive coolers, they're loud, and they require serious power supplies. You might need to upgrade your whole power supply just to use one. AMD's cards? They're chill. Literally. They run cooler, quieter, and won't spike your electricity bill as much. If you have a smaller PC case or you care about noise, this is a big deal. Plus, cooler equals longer lifespan for your card. Just saying. If you're a content creator, this is where NVIDIA has a real advantage. Most video editing and 3D software is built to work best with NVIDIA cards. Programs like Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Blender all work better with NVIDIA's CUDA technology. AMD has been improving, but if you're a professional who relies on GPU acceleration for work, NVIDIA is the safer bet. The software support is just better. However, if you're just doing casual editing, streaming, or YouTube stuff, AMD works great and costs less. You don't need to pay the NVIDIA premium unless you're really serious about professional work. The actual prices in 2025. Let's lay it all out. AMD RX 970 XT, $599. AMD RX 990, $799. NVIDIA RTX 5080, $899. NVIDIA RTX 5090, $1,499. See that gap? AMD's top card is $700 cheaper than NVIDIA's top card. $700. That's enough to upgrade your CPU, get more RAM, and buy a nice monitor. Even AMD's budget option is $300 cheaper than NVIDIA's mid-range card and performs nearly the same. So which should you actually buy? All right, real talk time. Choose NVIDIA if you want the absolute best performance, no compromises. You want ray tracing is really important to you. You do professional video or 3D work. Money isn't a major concern. You want the most polished software and drivers. Choose AMD if you want great performance without spending a fortune. You're building on a budget. You care about power efficiency and heat. You mostly play regular games, not ray tracing showcases. You like getting more bang for your buck. Here's my honest take. For most people building a gaming PC, AMD is the smarter choice. The performance is excellent, the price is way better, and unless you're specifically chasing ray-traced perfection or need CUDA for work, you won't miss what NVIDIA offers. If you're a competitive gamer who turns down graphics settings anyway to maximize FPS, go AMD and save the money. If you're building a budget PC, AMD all day. If you have money to burn and want the absolute best, sure, get the RTX 5090. It's incredible, but know you're paying a huge premium for that last 10 to 15% of performance. The bottom line, Both AMD and NVIDIA make great graphics cards in 2025. You can't really go wrong with either. But AMD gives you more value, more performance per dollar, less heat, more flexibility. For most people, that's what actually matters. NVIDIA gives you the cutting edge, the best ray tracing, the most advanced AI features. If that's what you want and you can afford it, it's awesome. The real question isn't which is better, it's which is better for me. Figure out what you actually need, what you can actually afford, and what you'll actually use. Then buy the card that fits those answers. And remember, at the end of the day, both cards will let you play games, create content, and have a great time. You're not making a life or death decision here. You're buying a tool that'll make your computer more fun to use. Choose wisely, but don't stress too much. You'll be happy either way. Happy gaming.
That's it for today's episode of System Reboot Zone. If you're still grinding, still optimizing, respect. You're rebuilding something legendary. Share this with your crew, drop your wins in the comments, and keep pushing. Until next time, stay mythic, stay relentless, and keep rebooting the system.